And welcome into the Paladins Pro Circuit. It's week 8. We're in Europe, and it's Finch and Kresnik to kick things off here, Paladins fans. And I'm hoping they're going to be starting the day off on a pretty good note here, because so far, Kresnik, just about every region has had some competitive back and forth nature. I think pretty obviously D669 or that squad up at the top, but everybody else is battling it out beneath it.
Yeah. Even with Rosvet kind of struggling to find some wins against some of the higher level teams, I still think they've been taking maps here and there, and I think they've been looking good even on the maps they've been losing. So they want to be able to strike back against Celestial, a team that with some recent roster changes kind of took a more console edge to it, I guess, picking up Prosper and playing with Slapodopoulos from the beginning, of course, having that core there has kind of helped them change their style and maybe keep teams kind of on their toes whenever they play against them.
Yeah, so Fatal Ambition and Carnage, that'll be the Brazil cam. Flashpoint Sanguine in A. Good luck to Onslaught up against District 69 later on today. My heart is with them. Let's go ahead and take a look at those standings as well. Bless up for them. As this is what we were talking about, man. This District 69 team is up at the top, largely feeling uncontested. Celestial are right behind them. And Kresnik, I feel like they've kind of been improving here lately as well. I think this team could potentially get to be that contender for D69.
Yeah, I agree. They've been kind of hovering in second, but recent changes, they have looked a lot better. I think looking strong against Five Randoms and Rosvet even in the past. Chrome and Onslaught have kind of struggled to find their footing. I guess the style of play that they want. I think there's really talented players in both teams, but they've really just not been able to fight back. Rosvet, out of all the teams, I think they have a chance to make something happen against Celestial with the players that they have. I like the way that they're kind of really flexible. We talk about how flexible Europe is, but Rosvet, I mean, they're literally putting their healer on Kinessa. I mean, they're going all out there with it, and they like to play to their strengths. And if the meta really favors them as we come into this new patch, it could be great for them looking at this game.
Potentially a chance for them to try and turn it around. Well, you talked a little bit about how here in Europe, some of those things are a bit different in terms of how they like to play. And we really mean that compositionally. We've seen them kind of go for going tanks altogether. We have seen a bit of a resurgence, I think, back to a more traditional 2 tank, 2 DPS, some healing. That's kind of come back up even here in Europe a little bit more as well, too. What are you expecting, though, is going to be like the sort of compositional style that we'll likely be seeing here today?
I think Celestial might play. Celestial are going to keep playing their triple DPS, and Rosvet are going to go back and forth. They're going to play both, but they're going to be swapping whoever's playing healer and DPS a lot. Anytime they have a sniper, it's going to be Phobos probably swapping to that Kinessa. Anytime they have a standard DPS, Phobos shifting back into that main role, and they're going to be playing comfortable. But double tank is definitely having a resurgence with all these healer buffs. We'll see it a lot more from Rosvet than we will from Celestial.
I expect we'll be seeing it too. Let's get those maps up here so we can see what's been banned out here so far. Kresnik looks like he won't be seeing any Bizarre Fish Market. No big surprises there. No Splitstone, no Frog Isle. So we'll be starting off on Serpent Beach this time. And Serpent Beach is one of those maps that always makes me think that we might be on IO watch here. Lately, teams have been banning this out a bit more. I feel like we don't always have to see IO in every game anymore, but some teams let it through too to see if they can beat it with Luna kind of chilling on the point.
Yeah, and you can do it, I think, if you have smart players that are playing backlines. If you can really burn down Luna as soon as it gets on point and then focus on the people pushing across the high area, it can work. You can play into IO, though she's a little better without Luna now. The buff to the healing, she's able to actually keep her team going, staying aggressive. If you draft an off-tank comp that'll just shove you off your high ground, there really is no answer to that damage reduction and that point capture.
We should be just about ready to start looking at these drafts here as well, Kresnik. Into the picks and bans we go. Celestial will be in that first pick spot. And normally, Kresnik, we talk about how first pick should have a little bit of leverage in this spot, right? And kind of force Rosvet to ban away some of the more priority stuff so that you can then leverage that into picking whatever's left over. That's still the best thing.
Yeah, and it's great to have that flexibility, but even on first ban, they're going to get rid of Io. They're going to get rid of it. They don't want to first pick it. They probably want to play more to those hit scan vertical characters that we know are going to be strong on Serpent Beach. And Jiraxis, I could see going high priority. Celestial, we know they like Koga, something else that could come out too for them to potentially climb up top, but they're going to get rid of the EV as well, something else vertical that they can get rid of, and now they can really monopolize potentially the characters that they prioritize that are going to surround and take that high ground that we know is so crucial.
Well, Genos getting banned as well by Rosvet. They don't want to deal with that amplification coming out from him. I don't blame him. We've also seen some pretty sick ultimates from Genos on this map, too, to kind of open things up and allow some conversions to come out as well, too. So no real problem with banning that out. I do like the Ruckus here. You talked about the mobility. He provides that. He's a bit more flank than anything else, but certainly can provide some of that shielding there as well. You like him enough to take first overall?
Yeah, especially on this map, I think he's able to really climb to. He can climb the torch. He can climb a new ledge. He can cross the entirety of mid and get behind your team. It really just opens the door for being very aggressive. Where Ashe, she can do it. She can cross those gaps, but she's going to have to do it in the same kind of predetermined lane every time. This way, they can kind of play anything and make it work around the ruckus. They can come from dial. They can come from behind them if they're able to mount around an area that's not being watched.
Well, Rosvet have rounded out both sides of their composition. They've got Vivian for all the backline damage you could want. And then they've got Anara, your point tank, who just kind of plants herself there and is so hard to remove. So Rosvet have kind of told us a little bit of what they want to be doing. They really do want to try and put this Anara down there and contest a little bit more around that mid fight. But here's the Leon and the Damba. I think that we've seen this a little bit more lately. The Damba started to get a bit more value.
Yeah, no, with the buff to Mending Spirits having that healing a little bit more front-loaded kind of output, it's able to keep up a little bit more with some of the supports now. The burst healing from Mending Spirits is still pretty great, and if you just throw your Gourd on point, even if you're not running Ripened Gourd, you're damaging the enemy point tank, you're healing your own point tank, you're really swinging the fight in favor on something that's very fire and forget. You don't have to pay too much attention to it. Rosvet, picking up this Androxus and this Grover, there's really, other than the Andro, this is a really, I'm going to sit and wait for you to come into me kind of comp. I feel like the aggressive team will almost always have the advantage there. Celestial looking a little bit better. They don't have to always push. They can take some ground and then stop. And Rosvet, playing into their comp as best as they can, they're going to back up, wait. But suddenly Celestial have all this space, and Rosvet don't have an answer right away for it.
And you definitely don't want to be sitting back and waiting with a Strix lined up on the other side, right? That makes that even scarier, as these sight lines on Serpent Beach sometimes can be rather punishing. And you said earlier we might see this Koga come out. So now between him and this Ruckus, the ability to sort of get up top to that high ground and move around the map has really opened up for Celestial.
Yeah, I got it's a tough Koga matchup though. I mean, looking at the characters on the other side, I don't want to play Koga into Andro, Kinessa, or Vivian. I'm not feeling it. He's going to be basically shooting a Nara more or less the entire game. Sure. It could be fine if he's able to play the sustain well enough, but Rosvet, they have a decent answer to it. It's just going to be a backline battle, solo tank Ruckus. If Rosvet can withstand the Leon Strix damage on point, they're going to be so hard to dislodge on the side of Celestial.
Yeah, this is potentially scary to me. A lot that they're putting on this Ruckus and the Damba back behind him to try and be that healer. And Chris, talk to me about this if I'm wrong. Damba to me feels like someone I want with a really beefy tank where I can reliably have them healed up over and over again. How does he work kind of fitting in with this Ruckus here as well?
He'll be able to keep everybody topped off is the biggest thing. You can also give Ruckus Speed Spirits, a little bit of a boost to him, so let him go further, faster once he is actually in and on the ground. No chill speed during gunfire in the build necessary. You can just use that to stay a little bit more aggressive. Talents here, if they stick with Suspect Everyone, that's an interesting pick from Rosvet if they do run that out. Normally we've seen Opportunity and Chaos in the past, but I need to see people kind of experimenting potentially if that is what you just stick with. Deflector Shield going to help a little bit against those aggressive dives. So if we do see that Ruckus and that Koga going all the way in, they have a lot more uptime on the scapegoat on anything to just mitigate even more damage.
Looks like plenty of COD arises out here as well. That first bit of itemization. We'll keep our eyes on how those get developed as we've already started the action. Low in the backline is this Vivian. It's so important that she survives, but instead it's a double the other direction as Toot steps on the gas. A triple kill from him. I said, how is this solo tank Ruckus going to work? Well, I made a mistake, obviously. He still flank Ruckus, getting to the backline and shredding.
Yeah, just walking straight at them. They couldn't stop it. They all got too low. Grover, after that initial burst, he can't really keep your team healed. And now Celestial is so aggressive with this Koga and this Ruckus, taking this high ground, even with only 48% on the point. They do lose their capper, it looks like, so they'll have to drop and find another angle. But Tutu maybe taking a little bit too much, goes down to Phobos.
Not ideal for him. That will be the end for Slop as well on that Koga, who you mentioned might have a bit of a struggle here this game. So far, so good, as Rosvet have reclaimed the center control. So even though that first fight was kind of a clean sweep for Celestial, Rosvet certainly not out of this. This is much where they'd rather be, I'm thinking, as well. Trying to get their Nara down there on the center, controlling that space, and then letting Defit, who's chilling back here on this Vivian, find his sight lines, but he's in trouble yet again. In comes Toot on the Ruckus, forcing him off the high ground. That's what they wanted. Now they can turn DPS back towards mid, but Ethereal gets the help that's needed. Toot ends up falling, and Rosvet still hold on. They have center control, forcing the overtime in their favor, but that's a big kill from Prosper, and Phobos can't quite find the angles he's looking for, but Slop goes down too, and Rosvet might be able to regain control.
No one's willing to go on the point, though. I mean, they finally Prosper finally drops to the point, keeping it controlled, but no one wanted to walk in and finish that overtime, which would have ended the game more or less. And now everyone's stuck on this other side of main, and Tutut's just going to walk in and find Phobos.
Finds Phobos early on, takes him out of it. The Vivian to his right has got to worry about the Ruckus starting to fall low, but it's still clinging to life. Meanwhile, Slop is found to fit in the back, able to take care of him, but Rosvet regain center control. You mentioned it, they were so close. They only needed a moment. Now the ult comes out from Klosar as well. Not quite enough to find the kill, but they've already gotten Haze and Ethereal, the initial cap favoring Rosvet.
Ethereal just lived on the point there, and that's kind of what you have to do against this comp. If you can find a way to survive through the damage, it's going to work out for you. They just have to get onto Prosper, and then I feel like Ethereal's life is just so easy. They're not looking at him. The rest of them were clearly able to kite away from Toot, making things... Toot got a kill once or twice, but if they trade and they refight with Ethereal on the point, they're going to have the advantage in the fight going forward. Still, though, holding back on this high ground is Celestial. They managed to have this, and they need to get this defense, I think, if they don't want Rosvet to go to a soaring lead. They already have them surrounded. If they can find one person weak or alone, this could be a great opening for them, Finch.
Well, 2-2 will be the first member in. He gets a little bit of backup from Klosar as well, but this is still not quite that all-in engagement you were talking about. Now 2-2 ready to start moving in, but Defit barely lives. Haze gets a kill as well. Klosar and 2-2 suddenly down, and Rosvet can now step on the gas just a bit and keep this payload rolling forward. It feels like they're putting a lot of burden onto this Ruckus, though, for me, Kresnik. He has flanking and frontlining responsibilities, and so far, I don't know that he's been able to do either job quite well enough, as the accursed arm from Haze does end up finding the kill, but he gets traded back out.
It can work if they go in aggressive with him and follow up. Having him as a solo tank means you're going super aggressive. You're walking straight in. You have to move in with him. If you sit back, your comp isn't going to work out because the Ruckus will just be taking a 2v1. It really is about Slop and Toot, I think, being in sync and moving into the right targets together. Right. But they are going to have to let that cart move. It's going to have to be Klosar and Prosper, maybe even a little bit of the Damba on that objective, slowing things down for Ethereal. If they don't win the fight immediately, which is going to be tough with Grover and Inara sustaining on the other side, they're going to have to throw squishies on the cart just to stop Ethereal from keeping it moving basically forever.
Slop steps down, recognizes that the Andro is available, gets past the reversal, and shuts down Haze. Toot. Also got a nice kill into Phobos elsewhere to remove the Kinessa, and this is starting to look good now for Celestial. Only 15 seconds left for Rosvet to work with, and look how far this zone has been established, almost by Slop single-handedly as he cuts down Noise as well. And with this stagger, this could just be it here at this point, Chris. Like, I don't see anyone really in range to come in and find this touch. Haze gets the kill, but Celestial will find the defense. It's 1-1 heading into this next mid.
Yeah, the timing of the fight was definitely tough for Rosvet. If they had maybe found a way to take it a little bit earlier, could have helped out. This is that initial aggression we saw from 2-2 leading into the triple. And this is the kind of tempo they're going to have to keep this whole time, basically, if they want to make it work. Every time Celestial won a fight, it went, but the cart was moving the entire time in the back. Right. They're really kind of playing on a tightrope, right? With the cart always moving because of Ethereal. One fight goes wrong, as soon as they get wiped and the dive doesn't find anything, suddenly that cart is almost getting capped. They're already so far in that they really can't afford to lose more than one fight. Itemization-wise, looks like just cauterize across the board going to be necessary. All these healers are going to be doing a lot, and you need to be able to burn through any of the burst sustain coming out from Damba or Grover. Similar trade, actually. Ethereal not starting on point, but he just can't stop Tutu from going in.
He gets right to the back. They've already lost Klosar early, though, and Defit takes care of Tutu. This is just what you were mentioning. When that initial dive starts to crumble for Celestial, not only have they obviously lost the fight, but then they start to lose a bunch of percent on the back of it as well, and Defit now can get aggressive. That forces the ult out from this Dom, and that is going to be enough for the turnaround. Prosper gets one, Xenos gets the second, but it cost them 30% just to do it, and they have now reclaimed, or at least forced Rosvet to give up control here of the center of the map, and they're still going it aggressive. Toot has made his way all the way to the back line too, but no one is there. Has to regroup, goes into the Hexifier. This is all in the service of trying to get rid of this Inara, but even still, the damage isn't enough. Somehow the Andro buys time, but Haze eventually goes down, and the percent climbs all the while. A double for Slop. Defit does end up punishing him for it, but they're up to 66%.
I don't know what I can even say about that. They just weren't in sync. A Hexifier was happening, and Haze took half of his health bar before he even popped the reversal. He didn't know that wall was going down, and they just weren't ready. They're going to have to throw Haze onto the point. He will make it, but he's going to go down immediately, and now they're stuck in a 5v4.
They do have Ethereal back, but that's a huge shot from Prosper. Comes around the corner and puts the fit down into the dirt. It's a double as Noise falls into his scope as well. Someone must turn and deal with his Strix, who's slowly trying to contest Ethereal here on the point. They have him low. Now they know exactly where Phobos is, and Prosper lines him up again. Gets the first shot, not enough for the kill, as they have taken care of Ethereal and Haze in the background. The OT ticking. Phobos can't stick around for it, and that will be enough for Celestial to find that second point, and they will indeed start rolling with the payload.
Nice to see the infused crystals nerf to Strix kind of coming into effect there. Him having to reload, something we don't often see Strix getting troubled with. Or maybe we'll have to get a little more used to it now. Celestial Prosper with a huge impact on that fight, being exactly where he needs to be, connecting all the quick scopes, just locking the whole team down. And now the aggression from Celestial can begin. They can push up top to try to isolate people together, Toot and Slop. But in main, looking out, they have to put squishies on card, as I said, and it's gonna be Closar that goes down.
Yeah, I don't think Hayes is expecting Slop to be there either. Prosper has been removed, but that hasn't stopped Slop. Finally, he will end up falling. Good damage there from Phobos to slow them down here for a moment. So Celestial now going to have to regroup. And as you mentioned that time, Prosper just kind of hitting the shots. I mean, that is Prosper. I think that is at least somewhat reliable, but I don't know, man. It feels like they are walking that tightrope, as you mentioned, and it's getting thinner and thinner.
It's going to be a little bit easier when you're on the offense, because if you go down and we'll look at a defensive point, you know, at Serpent Beach, they might just get that anyway. It's about how well they can execute up top. But actually, look at that. Prosper catches Phobos in main, and they just, again, they're not expecting them to climb into Torch. This is their only execute. They have to be more ready for this aggression.
They have to be, but it was the two-pronged attack you wanted. It was Toot moving alongside the backup from the Kogan. It works that first time. Fit does find the punish, but Slop is there to keep this trade going in favor of the offense. He's got the ultimate to get to the backline with 2, and there's no way for Noise to make it out of there. Good shot from Haze the second that it's over, but Closar still in the back, has the ultimate. Not enough to be able to find any damage. Phobos shuts him down, so they've gotten the cart quite close, but I think it might stall out as Prosper buys some time here in this back corner. But how is he always this accurate? Ethereal ends up falling too, but they can't really make much more of a push happen at this point.
Yeah, they do have this space still controlled, though. No one can get onto Prosper. The Andro is just completely locked out. Everyone's staring at him. They have a sensor drone on him. They know there he is. They can't do anything. And they're too distracted. Here comes the Hexafire.
He makes his way in for a double kill. Phobos desperate for someone to walk into his crosshair, but he can't seem to find it. Slop gets one. Prosper wins the sniper duel, and into the backline goes Closer with Ethereal down. The payload should be rumbling its way in. Celestial suddenly with a 3-1 stranglehold over the map.
I don't know how I feel about that Mexican standoff that was happening between Prosper and the entire team. Yeah. They really just stared him down and didn't look at anything else. Toot, he just walked in. They left the back door open. He just walked straight through. He didn't kill Haze with the Hexa, but landing right next to Defit with it didn't give him any help at all. And I guess they have to look at him. Look at this damage chart.
81k, yeah.
He is astonishingly above everybody else, I would say. But they have to look somewhere else for a minute. Play your cover. This is what snipers do to the game. They put so much focus on him that everything else turns. They just have to play off to the side, maybe use natural cover and use that to contest the cart. But I guess there really isn't as much once you're that close to the end.
Made it difficult. When Prosper is playing this well, it could be very difficult to stop this team. Sounds like the Accursed Arms coming out. Hayes does find Toot with that. Slop gets 1 onto the Fit as well, so it's 1 for 1, but it's made a lot worse by this last exchange. A double for Slop, increasing to a triple, and they get rid of Ethereal. It's another wipe for Celestial as they start to roam all over the map, and this is what this draft can look like sometimes from Celestial when they get off to a good start.
You never want to start your mid-fight with only 7% when you have double comeback. This is going to put so much pressure on Hayes to actually make it in because no one else really has the mobility. Not catching Slop that aggressive really hurts too. And if Hayes goes down here, then that's worst case scenario. No one can really touch now. Celestial have all the time in the world to figure this out.
And they're going to drop the ultimate. That sets up for another big fight on this left side. 72% for Celestial. Ethereal has made his way in, but he's all alone now. They turn around, burn him, and start to calculate up. This is the win here at this point, and no one from Rosbet can find a touch. They're just too far back. 99%. Make it 100 as Celestial are able to find Serpent Beach.
God, it almost pains me to see solo tank Ruckus going so well all the time. Because it was this weird thing no one was willing to do. If I played it in a casual, I'm like, all right, well, guess I'll just take this L and go next, right? But they're making it work in this new meta. being able to be so aggressive, have these tanky flankers go with him, and on maps, especially Serpent, it's the main place we really see it working. It opens the door for so much. They just couldn't stand the pressure, even with more backlines than flanks on the side of Celestial.
You're right, and you talked about that combo super early on in this game about how important it was going to be for Slop and Tutu to kind of move together around the map, right? So that dive for the Ruckus to kind of work. And I think that we saw it repeatedly challenging the high ground once they were on offense, flanking right away, getting to the back line for the dive onto Rosfet at the start of the fight and kind of bunker busting up this defensive composition from Rosfet. And then obviously Prosper just having a game for himself with 90k damage, almost 30k above the next closest person. I mean, it's hard to beat when he's just hitting shots.
Yeah, it's so tough to really make that space and get into him, especially when anywhere you try to go, your backline is just getting torn to shreds by Tutu and Slop. And when you go to Prosper, finally maybe you get through, you break through, get the pressure onto him. Now Klosar is just on the other angle, destroying you. There's just a lot that they have to go through with that comp, and having Hayes be the only flanker, I think it just put way too much pressure on him that one Androxus, without an off tank to really go with him, just wasn't able to overcome.
And we got to see, I think, some Damba value here as well, Kresnik, if you want to talk a bit about how Xenos performed in this game. Obviously, the Ultimate was able to set up for a couple key fights. I think it was critical that they had that bit of really reliable control to help keep that snowball going in some of those fights when the re-engage would happen.
Dumbo being able to output all that, the amount of healing that it does now, with it being front-loaded, he doesn't have to pay as much attention to people still, but still able to output a solid amount of damage when he gets dove, more than you expect, almost Furia level, maybe even equal to Furia level now, honestly, with the Wrath nerf that she recently received. He's able to protect himself, output great healing, split that healing, and has a crazy amount of CC. I think with that buff to front loading his heals, we're going to see him, I think, skyrocket back up to meta pick, and the players love it. Everyone loves playing Damba. How long have people been playing Damba? It's been quite a while.
And I think you're kind of right to talk about the split heal. More importantly, the way he had to move around the map, I think. With the way that they were playing, there were constantly these small skirmishes where he only needed to get in there and do a little bit of healing to give Slop the advantage in that fight, right? Or to get Prosper just barely out of a dive or something like that. And he was moving around the map really well. Just a great first map there from Celestial to be able to find Serpent Beach. So now, if you're Rospa on the other side, yeah, that first fight kind of went well. They started off to a good start, but it's been 4-0 in the other direction since then. I mean, what can they do to try and slow down this momentum?
I think they might have to, I would say change up the draft, but I think what they needed to draft was so specific to Serpent Beach that they could stick with what they had before. Depending on what map we go to next, they could stay status quo, and Stonekeep is a map where there's plenty of ways, I'd say, into the back line, while the fights are still close enough where even if you go on that wide flank, you might still be able to affect the fight. If you go through Church to get onto a back line, you push him out, you're still in a great position to fight the rest of the map.
As you should be. It looks like we are indeed going to be heading to Stone Keep for this next map, and pretty exciting. I like to say this feels like heads up Paladin when you're coming in. No big secrets or surprises or anything like that going to be coming out your way here on what is one of the flagship maps here for them. You already talked about how that initial fight, I feel like, Kresnik, can be so big, right? Whether it's Keepside, whether it's over in Church, however that fight ends up going a lot of the times can determine it. Sometimes we see whole squads never meet up at all, flank around, and start the fight that way. So it could certainly be interesting here on Stone Keep. And right away, Victor getting banned out. Is that just standard? You don't want to have to deal with this guy here right now, or do you like him a little bit better on Keep?
I mean, Victor has been fantastic on Stonekeep forever. Even when he wasn't meta like he is now, he was still very playable on this map, sometimes preferred over Cassie and Leon when they were a little bit weaker. And they want to take him away from Prosper and Slop. They think that maybe a little bit less flexible. Take him away, take the Talus away, get rid of some of those flank characters, those strong hit scan picks. Maybe make Celestial a little less flexible, but there's so many hit scans in the game. Slop plays keyboard and controller. You really can't limit them that much. I get the Vic ban, but Talus might be a little too targeted. Starting with this Inara will be great, though. Inara can control whatever side she goes on. She'll live on the point through a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And I think this is a better map for her than Serpent Beach.
It is, and I think Ethereal, I mean, I don't think that he particularly played poorly in that last game. It's just the way those fights went oftentimes left him on an untenable island. But look at Celestial top picking this Ruckus here yet again. I wonder if we potentially are going to be seeing the solo tank Ruckus happening here yet again. They're going to pair that with the Genos. Remember, this was banned out last time. Now they get this extra damage and obviously a bit easier applied healing here too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see them sticking with that solo tank ruck, and I think this Genos is a great pick for this map, being able to heal from less of a distance now, but safely through walls. There's enough corners, there's enough rooms on the map where having that heal through wall utility can help significantly, and plenty of lineups. Think about all the places you hold on this map. How many of them are just straight lines that Genos is going to either hit you or lock you out of during his ultimate, and that's enough sometimes to just keep space controlled. I do like how Rosvet have gone with this Vivian after, I think it was okay with them last game. It was still good into the Ruckus, but now they have, I think, the stronger targeted healer, the Damba, who could also peel the Ruckus off when he goes in a little bit too far. The Vivian's going to be looking, I think, a little bit better on Stone than it looked on Serpent.
I think so too. The Damba represents a bit more consistent control, or just consistent output rather, than maybe you'd get from that Genos ult. We'll see how those two end up coming out in this next fight. It will be the Maeve picked up here for Celestial, not necessarily hurting for flankers. So this must just be that Celestial like this Maeve pick here. What are you seeing from this one here for him, Krez?
Well, I'll just say congratulations to Rosvet for winning Keep, because Celestial are going to be nowhere near it. They're going to be playing outside, and I like the idea of it. I think with how aggressive they like to play, I think it works well for them. The Maeve and the Andro can both stay at a safe distance and only engage when they want to. They can go in with the Ruckus as soon as he's ready, and this is a well-synced aggressive comp, I guess is the way to say it. None of them are going to get forced into fights they don't want to take. As soon as Ruckus is ready, they can go. And remember I said I think they were targeting Prosper? Well, you got Strix again. I don't know how happy Rosvet are going to be about that.
Yeah, hopefully they're not thinking too hard about how things went on Serpent Beach, because Prosper was hitting everything. But think about just how much dive this is now for Celestial. Very likely going to be moving kind of as a big unit around all this dive potential, because you don't want to leave that Strix back there to maybe get blown up. But this could be scary to deal with here for Rosvet. You leaning anywhere, any direction, just based on the composition, kind of take the teams out of it?
I think so. I like Celestial's comp, even with the solo tank Ruckus. I think the ability to just dive onto two backlines, it didn't work for Rosvet last game. I struggle to think, even with keep control, they're just going to be giving up the point.
Going to be difficult there for them to try and find this win. We're on to game number 2. We're getting ready to start moving into Stone Keep here this time, Cresting. What we saw, I think, that really presented some problems for Rosvet back on Serpent Beach really was that initial dive, right? And then sort of the fractured fights that would happen as a result of them. Is it going to be quite that same sort of binary situation here on Stone Keep, though? Is their re-engage potential any stronger?
Yeah, I think so, because it's a little bit easier to get back to the point, I would say. Or
that's fair, yeah.
Closer enough where you can just kind of go through Banana, make it into Keep. And the initial fight's going to be harder for, I would say, for Celestial. Rosvet can sit inside Keep. They're going to hold that high ground, sit above them. They're going to struggle to peek out the doors, but if they can get Ethereal onto that point and have him soak a little bit of the focus from Celestial, they might be able to make a move. Catch one of these flankers unaware. It's about how patient Celestial are willing to be. If someone wants to take a 1v1, and it kind of becomes that skill matchup at that point, whoever wins that 1v1 will probably get their team complete control of the mid.
We saw the Haven pick up there for Phobos, I think correctly recognizing that he could end up being the target in this one. Prosper already taking quite a bit of damage. Reverse allows him to buy some time, but the Buck's on his way. Hayes finds that first kill. Closer gets the kill on the Phobos, though, in response. Ethereal falls, too, for a double for this Maeve, who's already starting to look good. So even though Rosvet had a good start by getting rid of that Andro early, they've already lost control, and now Celestial starting to rack up the percent, even losing the Damba.
Yeah, I think Hayes being the one to chase the kill down wasn't what they needed. Great juggle, actually, there by Defit finding that kill. If Hayes sat back and they used the line of sight to kill the Andro, maybe they could have had someone to save their Leon, but just not enough. And Toot high in that Keep side, they try to go through, but too much damage for them to walk through.
Knew Prosper was low, was hoping that Slop could be the one to back him up. That's worth mentioning, though, right? That it is Slop that's on no Strix here, it would seem, as Toot getting aggressive towards this backline. Slowed down, though, the second the dive commenced, but I think it's doing its job, even with Defit getting the double, but Ethereal's made his way over to the point, so now it's controlled by Rosvet, and they're starting to rack up the percentage with this staggered death now for Prosper. Rosvet may have found yet another opening map win here on this mid fight. They do indeed, and now can start a little bit of offense of their own.
Really bad timing at the end from Celestial. They needed to wait to go for that point touch around overtime time where they actually would be able to have it. Force Ethereal to be out of the fight for a little bit longer. Rosvet find 2-2 trying to flank because they're going to have to, and Finn alone, he only has Ethereal with him, but no one can stop this pressure from 2-2.
No, 2-2's made his way to the back right where he wants to be. Ethereal does have Xenos, though, low and alone. 2-2 will fall to Hayes as well, so what looked like trouble might be turning around, but Hayes can't find it. Good work by Prosper to somehow weave his way out of that one, but still, the space has already been bought. The credit card swiped at Prosper. Sorry, bud, could see around the corner there. Maybe the gun was peeking out. He goes down too, so Hayes now on a rampage in the backline. It takes Toot Toot showing up to finally slow this buck down.
Prosper is cursing Closar's name, who ran away right next to him and led Toot Toot literally straight to him. Celestial on this defense, this is not a good comp for defending. You're basically saying, all right, Slop, hit everything. Thank you. Very cool. And that's all they have really to rely on, him in the far back. You can see the cart's moving. They're just going to have to surround whoever goes in. Makes their dive a little bit weaker. I mean, finally, now they can dive with that pick on Ethereal. Everyone else can go in. Rosvet all on the respawn here. Celestial want to get aggressive because they don't want to be stuck in that position where they're just praying for their Strix to win the game for them, more or less. And aggression is going to be what they have to continue to have. Someone over in Keep, potentially, to spam them as they come through. Looks like not really, though. Cassie got there alone, but Prosper rotates back over, catches to Fit.
That's a pretty big kill to kind of slow down this push. They're making Ethereal pay the health tax to make his way in, too. Should lose Prosper. Yep, he was a little too far forward there, and he will end up dropping. But I think 2-2 wants this fight to keep on going. He is diving in the backline. They got a couple members low. 2-2 bought some time, but he will eventually end up falling. Not going to find anything with that ult, and I love the idea there, though. Xenos could have potentially been big, but instead he crumbles. Way into the backline goes Slop, and now he's fallen too, and Hayes is keeping that payload moving.
And Prosper, again, a little bit out of sync with the rest of his team, getting really isolated here. No way he's living through Hayes, but might be able to trade. Bulk up might be too strong, but two people syncing up on the dive, but the cart's moving the whole time. Ethereal!
Yeah, he's still in the back on the cart. It's what you said earlier. Even if they can win those fights on the side, no one is checking Ethereal, who's up on the cart, keeping it rolling, trying to keep this Maeve out of the equation, too. They get the kill on the Slop the second that he respawns, and there will be no touch. 2 in a row now for Rosvet.
I don't like questioning the decision-making from other teams. These players could probably take me in a 1v1, most of them. I don't know about the cart that close to the point, dive the bulk up buck decision. I definitely question that. He is the person who lives through the dives, the one person you really don't want to be pressuring, but I don't. They took the initiative, and that's what they have to do with their composition, but you can't put all those resources onto a character that's going to live this early in the game. Maybe in the later rounds you can burn through that sustain. That 300 bonus health is always going to happen, but you can stop the majority of that recover from applying. Celestial, now the Cauterize is online. Maybe they'll be willing to get a little bit more aggressive, but actually it looks like Rosvet are just giving up the high ground for free. Their one advantage they had on the first mid gone, and they're just all over their core.
Yeah, Toot Toot's made his way to the backline already. Gets grabbed, though, taken up to the air, but that does not stop him from killing Hayes. DeFit, though, getting the better of this little skirmish he's having with Closar, and Closar will fall. That's huge. They've given up 42% to start this off, but now the triple kill for Prosper puts it all to bed. It's 66% with that fast cap going, and this might already be done for Rosvet in terms of this first mid fight.
Yeah, when you lose a fight that cleanly and they have double comeback mechanic, there's no way you're turning it around. And Celestial, I don't know if I like how Rosvet changed their plan. They just started on the side that they're worse at for sure. Isolation right now from 2-2 will go down, but you trade one for it. Celestial, they look like they might still want to fight. Just bait Rosvet in and see if they can find another pick.
Closar is finding some decent damage onto Phobos here in the back to try and pull some attention. That will force Hayes to make his way back around, and Closar has to disengage correctly. They've gotten a little bit of movement here out of this payload here so far, but nothing particularly crazy. This is our first chance to see Celestial on offense here on Stone Keep, and Closar, sensing some weakness, just finds a shot onto DeFit straight up. Hayes does make him pay by getting the kill on the Toot Toot, and this is still a relatively slow push out from Celestial. In fact, if Prosper had lost that trade, that might have stalled it, but good work getting some help from Closar, who's played well this fight. Yeah, Closar I think is doing great. This Maeve has been really hard for them to deal with. Prosper saved those charges from before. The accursed arm! Phobos and Ethereal hugging in the corner, just can't go down. The shrub will not protect them from the Atroxis' ult.
And this card's really close. With the timing of that death, I don't know if they can contest.
I don't think so. Hayes gets caught by the Void Grip right away, so that forces into Fit, who cannot last very long. Celestial get the push, and just like that, it's evened up 2-2. And I wonder if that's just in the support mentality somewhere. If you can't block it, at least take it with your backliner, I suppose. But they all get hit by that accursed arm, and that really opens up that final push.
Yeah, I think every single fight that happened so far in this game was just sick accursed arms from Prosper. I think he did a point-blank one here. Yeah, this is what led to his triple on mid. And actually saving that 30%, more important than we thought. He was able to have it to clean up the people hiding in the corner. And they need to have explosive plays like that if they want to turn it against the enemy comp. If fights aren't being won immediately, I think the sustain coming out from the Damba, Inara, Vivian, and Buck, all of them together are going to be too much. But now with that cap advantage and how they've itemized Celestial, they're into CAW 3s before Rosvet are. That's going to help significantly, I think, against the other side. And Rosvet, again, hold this low ground, playing a little bit harder onto Ethereal, but not being able to really stand on the point because they're just prepping for the dive to come in.
They are, and Toot is up top contemplating where it is that he plans to go. Closar low, regrouping with the squad, getting some much-needed healing here as well. No one has set foot onto the actual point here so far, Kresnik. This has been more about this skirmish between the Keep and Church side. So Ethereal, as is his job, steps out first. That's why Toot gets aggressive and moves in, drops the Hexafire as well. It works. To Fit and Ethereal both go down right away. I don't know about this wait-and-see strat from Rosvet, because so far they've been waiting for the dive, and it's been working.
Basically, they're saying, take all the time you need to dive into us. We're not even going to cap. We'll take 15%, then you wipe us, and then we'll see what we want to have. I will say, love what Tutu did there. He went in with the Hexafire. As soon as he got Dread Serpented, he said, all right, that's all the value I'm getting out of this. Canceled it and immediately dove to the other side. Just completely negating the advantage of the only real counter dive ultimate that Rosvet have.
Good shots here from Slop fitting through. Closar gets a big kill into the Fit as well, so they will get the first capture off for this one team fight. And that's another thing that's interesting to me, is they will find this cleanup kill into Ethereal and earn themselves a little bit of extra push time with this cart. Should these fights really be coming down so often to just one mid fight here around that mid fight, or shouldn't there not be a bit more potential for Rosvet to make their way back in?
I think just the fact that it's happening so clean from Celestial,
is
what's making it happen, right? They're wiping so fast, they're capping as soon as the fight's their way. That's really what's keeping things turned. And Phobos in the open, right in front of Slop. He gets the pick, and they're just not watching their backline right now.
Closar's making his way in. Hayes stuck inside the corner, and suddenly he's dealing with Toot and Closar make their way in. Ethereal stuck on an island to the right-hand side, and there is no one there to try and help him out. They're not building any fun little communities over there, Animal Crossing style. Instead, Celestial are rolling in this payload. And so far, Rosvet don't have an answer until Ethereal's back up and can step out. Otherwise, they'd be throwing their lives away, so they're desperately waiting. But they've already lost to Fit. Ethereal has made his way out, but here comes the big ultimate from Xenos. Phobos goes down, as does everybody else. Suddenly disaster. Ethereal left on his own, and Celestial take care of Stone Keep.
Yeah, it looks like Rosvet only just got enough bells to build that bridge to make it to the objective at the last second.
Right.
They just, all the fights from Celestial were perfectly timed, and that's really what got them it. Anytime that Rosvet were like, it's our chance. All right, now we'll move. We have everybody. Let's go. Suddenly, they lost someone in the back. The Strix got a pick. The dive was happening. Ethereal halfway to contesting the points, like, oh, well, all right, guess I'll die. Not on the point. And the cart just never stopped once they finally got the initiative.
And a good game from Closar here, too. We talked a little bit about some of the great work he was able to do. It was a great game from Prosper as well. Yeah, I should have known some Prosper replays were on their way. A couple of multi-kills off the accursed arm that really turned this game around from them. And you mentioned that they needed those big explosive plays, like kind of baked into this composition, is that occasionally your superstars will be superstars. And that's what happened here for Celestial.
Yeah, giving your star players characters like Strix, Andrew, Maeve, that's the best way to do it. When your DPS have characters that can really pop off, I think Vivian and Cassie have that potential, but that's more about your positioning rather than your aim, the chance to kind of pop off. They have these burst damage, flashy characters in this dive composition, and when they're on point, it's so hard to deal with. Just overwhelming amounts of damage coming from every angle, and they're just sitting and waiting for them to walk into them.
Yeah, that part was a bit curious for me. Rosvet kind of bunkering down church side there and giving a lot of time over to Celestial for them to sort of coordinate their dive, to plan it without having to give up any percentage on the actual point to buy that same time for themselves to get prepared for that dive. So I think that's something that Roster are going to have to consider. Back on map 1, the dive happened too quick for them to be ready for. So this time on map 2, I feel like they were like, we'll bunker down, we'll be ready for it. But then it was delayed. It never came. They got to find that middle ground.
Yeah, I want them to play maybe on a wide map as we go forward, play some backlines that can actually keep their distance, and just make those flankers spend their resources before coming in, so the dive isn't as safe as it has been on the last 2 maps.
They've been able to get out of there, disengage in the back of the dives pretty easily. So far, Celestial in control up 2-0, but this set is not done yet. Give us a quick break. We'll be right back with plenty more PPC. Welcome back to the PPC. We're in Europe, as always, to start things off right in the middle of this set between Celestial and Rosvet. Celestial in that second place spot, Rosvet having some struggles. And right now in this set in particular, Kresnik, Celestial are looking like the better team for now. They're off to that 2-0 lead, and it's been relatively convincing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Rosvet are taking these fights in a way that they shouldn't be. They're waiting for this aggression to come in from them and saying, oh, we'll win the skill matchup. But Celestial seem to have that on lock. They need to be playing more to control the map, and if they want to play to control the map, this is where it's going to be important. Ice Mines, they have to have such good zoning potential. They have to be able to move as a unit, have a wall that Celestial aren't going to be able to break through. But I don't know, I wanted them to go to a wide map. I wanted them to play in a place where they can see this dive, this aggression coming from far away. They've gone to the most compact map, at least in terms of the mid-fight, possible.
Yeah, getting back in, there's essentially just those 2 paths you can take, and those can relatively be guarded, 2 to 3 paths, and you can guard those pretty easily, I would say, here on Ice Mines. I do want the statistics, though, on how often a team is down 0-2, and Ice Mines is the 3rd map that is picked. I feel like that's pretty often done, because it just ideally should give you a bit of breathing room. But Krez, I think teams have figured out a bit more how to play on this map, how to still find some aggression here on Ice Mines, and still win these games relatively quickly.
Yeah, it was kind of shunned as a map for the longest time. Teams were like, oh, what are the maps? Well, one team's going to ban Timber, one team's going to ban Ice Mines, and then we're going to see what goes from there. But ever since things opened, it got a lot easier for them, I think, to play. Now the teams are willing to push through, play this map, with that tunnel open that happened forever ago. But now they're finally getting this time in on the map. Understanding how important the mid-fight is, how to actually survive when a fight gets lost, I think is a really big part of it too. Not just wiping and letting them hard zone you. Going to this draft, though, right now, Rosvet, Talus again targeted, but they banned Inara away from themselves. I guess they couldn't trust themselves to not pick it, so they get rid of it to stay a little comfortable. Celestial do continue to ban that IO, though, and the Xin away from them. Great character for this map. I think Yomi pierces very far, does a lot of damage, too much to deal with, but Victor and Bomb King both open, and those are incredible damages for this map.
That is, both of these could do quite well here, especially Bomb King. I feel like if he can find you all stacked up, he could be off to a good start. And Terminus, who I know you've told me does do quite well here on this map. What is it that these players like about Terminus specifically on Ice Mines?
Terminus is great against blasters on this map. I know this is kind of a map where they really they thrive, I would say, able to zone those small choke points with the explosives. Bomb King and Terminus specifically is a comp that if you get it, you almost just check the map off. You have
they got it.
And they have it, exactly. They have so much control. If they can push through that bar, unless they lose stage, which is the far side of the map near the death pit, so hard that there's nothing that Barn can do whatsoever, they have complete control. Bomb King does an overwhelming amount of damage. You literally cannot damage him back. You can siphon the King Bomb in. It's a perfect pairing to just lock down the close side of the map. If they have the master riding advantage, Rosvet, they're going to have to play through windows, and you can play around that pretty easily.
So to be con here, Celestial are willing to go double tank here. I feel like for the first time, they've been mostly putting all that pressure on Detutitude on the Ruckus kind of by himself. But instead, the con of the Terminus should provide a pretty formidable front line on Ice Mines in particular to make life harder for Rosvet. It looks like in response, they're going to head back to this Canessa. But right now, I don't know. I feel like they might be missing, some of that blast or AoE damage you were just talking about a moment ago. Is this going to work here for them?
I wanted something blaster-wise, but Terminus would kind of deal with it really effectively.
I suppose so, yeah.
This is a window comp now. They're going to play in those windows on that stage and surround them because they literally have to. You just can't beat Term BK in Barn unless you go for a Makoa or something, but Rosvet clearly want this triple DPS. I don't know if this is the map for it, though. I think Celestial have this incredible Ice Mines comp. That Vivian is going to make Ash's life on the point terrible, so hard to deal with, and that Khan is going to do just as much work.
It's going to be very difficult, I think, for Rosfed to try and slow this down. We have seen Ashes do well, I feel like, in those solo tank scenarios. Assert Dominance is such a strong tool for buying a little bit of additional time for the rest of the squad, and particularly on Ice Mines. That can be critical, but feels like it might already be a bit of an uphill battle for Rosfed as we make our way into the third and very critical map here for Rosfed, who don't want to go down on a 3-0 to this surging Celestial roster. On the other side, Celestial doing their best to stay in the rear-view mirror of District 69, who so far looks like the top team. A strong performance here could certainly bring them right back into it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, and showing that they can play on different types of maps too. I mean, playing on Serpent, playing on Stone Keep, and now on Ice Mines, if they can carry this momentum. If they perform well with this draft, they're flexible enough to do well against any team. I would say they can do a little bit of everything.
Right.
I want to see them control the barn. I want to see them control the point and just let Prosper do as much damage as he can to the stage side. If that's the case, then they're just going to have things dominated. But Prosper actually also in barn, they're stacking really hard here and isolating Ethereal and Buck from the fight.
There's no punish for this either. There is no wraparound. They've got most of that front line kind of sectioned out of the fight in terms of Haze and the Ash. That's working well for Celestial so far. In fact, Klosar just starts walking in, gets the kill into Phobos earlier to remove the Kinessa, and still, they're keeping these two frontliners zoned out. 33% building up, and Celestial do go put someone back on the point. They're going to deal with these damage dealers, but they drop down to deal with the dive. That means they can just sit on the point and rack up that percentage back there, Kresnik. I feel like Celestial kind of walk in and took control.
Yeah, and how do you stop them? Honestly, with this term pressuring here, they need to back up, though, and watch the other choke points, because right now they're down their Khan. He was the one looking there before. It's kind of all on Prosper to stop it, and now Rosfed are overwhelming them through stage on the other side. If they can get the Siphon in time, they can't. Losing Slop here is huge, but they're only now just getting onto the point. They're going to have to, if Rosfed want to keep this controlling, they have to steamroll over them right now.
They do, and they get that critical kill onto Toot, so that's good work. Hayes going to step forward to try and deny them any additional time. Not going to find anyone there with that grab, so the Khan has to fall back a bit more, and all the while the percent is starting to climb. Over 60 now for Rosfed. But through the top side, Celestial will come for their ability to try and jump back out and regain control. That has forced Rosfed back for a moment, but look how much damage it's cost them just get here to this point. Out comes the King Bomb as well. That'll be joining, but they've already lost Klosar, who was low HP buying this space. The King Bomb does get to the back and at least help them find the kill onto the Fit. They've regained center control, but there's the Assert Dominance landing right in the back onto Slop to try and finish off this kill, but he couldn't get it. They never touched the point either, so Prosper gets a double, and Celestial capped the first point.
He got grumpy stunned as soon as he landed it and just didn't make it in time. He made so much room for Phobos too. That was honestly a tale of ults, as Ice Mines often ends up being. That fight was so back and forth, but the King Bomb really put things in Celestial's favor. He didn't even know Hayes was in the corner, but didn't need to. He goes straight to the spot where the backlines have been playing the whole time. Kind of unsafe. And just stuns every single DPS on the team. They can't live through being stunned like that. Only tanks can, and they have a shortage of them on Rosfed's side.
Monarch's going to drop as well, and we're starting to see just how scary Prosper as well as this Bomb King can be on Ice Mines, where they're able to find these long sort of sight lines, even with the Kinessa on the opposite side, and keep this team, keep Rosfed kind of pinned back. Stepping forward now aggressively is Toot. Defit is stuck between a rock and a hard place, so here's your answer, bud. It's Toot getting up close and personal to shut him down. Toot is now quite low, but he makes his way back towards the rest of the squad, heals back up plenty from the Grover. Celestial can keep this push going.
The huge self-sustain from the Terminus. He just basically got himself from 0 almost all the way back to full. Yeah. And looking to reanimate in their face here. Super aggressive. Overpower coming out as well.
The Fit only just respawned, only be pulled instantly back into the clutches there, Kresnik. That's got to be frustrating here for him. Recognize where Ethereal is, grabs him, and throws him right back out into the open. You're all the front line there is, so we're coming for you first. Klosar is still standing in the back. Will finally fall to Hayes as the dive does get answered, but no one had an answer to the BK in the back. Xenost gets a double, and Celestial now on top 2-0.
I love Slop playing without caring about his KD, just walking all the way into the spawn and doing damage to anybody trying to come out and making them deal with him first. Even without being a tank, he's just putting himself in a place that he has to be dealt with. and it really turned things around, getting rid of the Victor as well immediately twice in a row. There's no damage Defit can do. He's 2-5. He's still out damaging Prosper. But the fact that he's just getting shut out of these fights and all their damage is getting out healed by Xenost, it's a wall that Rosvet can't really overcome. They don't have the burst damage outside of Phobos. It's so much pressure on him to actually find the kills. And Celestial have so many ways to just block those sight lines, whether it be shields, siphons, or Grover just not even needing to peek in the first place.
And you said earlier that even potentially these master ridings could be a big deal if Toot Toot and the boys are able to establish early position and then use that BK from Slop to kind of keep Rosvet pinned back. And already they're out there first. That's a big snipe from Phobos, though. Find some backline damage, try and force that Vivian to fall back. But Celestial willing to step out to the point early. There's the Whirlwind coming out, too, willing to commit the ultimate from this Grover. Are Celestial, and I think they've got the right idea. In comes the Assert Dominance that does find the stun onto Closar, but they wanted Slop. They get him first. Closar falls right afterwards. It's 51% that Rosvet's trade for this privilege, but now they should be the ones in control.
And if Celestial want to refight this, they have to leave now to have a chance. If people get staggered when they have double comeback, there is no way they can turn it around. And even still, it's going to be difficult. This Terminus doesn't have any burst mobility really to get to the point outside of Shatterfall, and he just might not even land, honestly, from doing it. They move now, but if they don't get an early pick, it might just be too much damage as both tanks run straight to the point.
They force their way in, and they do find the touch. In fact, they've got soul control, and somehow the fight flips entirely around. Madara Hayes and Defit all fall instantly. Phobos is the only one that's still alive and healthy in the backline. He's lost all his allies and all his friends, and he shall fall too. Toot catches up to him, and what looked like a sure cap for Rosvet has slipped through their fingers.
God, Finch, I really don't like Phobos' positioning on these fights. I feel like the fact that on the first kill in a fight is your Khan punching your Kinessa to get rid of them from the fight. I don't think you're in the right place, but he stayed there the whole time, letting them use so much cover that they wouldn't have otherwise if he had been willing to play in the stage side. The tanks, the fact that they turned and looked at Celestial's tanks, both immune, one through Siphon, one through Shout, and just let them walk back in and take all that space again, was really what opened it up. They had to look behind, they had to look at the King Bomb that was coming in from Slop in the backline. Their focus isn't in the right place on Rosvet, and I feel like they're not keeping the angles locked down that they need to actually slow down Celestial.
Yeah, and look how far back they're defending. I mean, how often on Ice Mines does the initial part of the payload push go this well? And there's the pull onto Phobos yet again. The Kinessa positioning doesn't matter this time as they reach into the backline and grab him out. The payload now continuing to rumble forwards on the can win this here on Ice Mines. Ethereal on the side does A's that forces Madara to come in, but it's too little too late. Celestial the and
the double tank composition from Celestial they were playing before, they were still aggressive. Ruckus solo tank going into the back line. This was, we are out sustaining you, we are out damaging you, and we're just going to take this space from you by force.
And I feel like Rosvet might have put themselves into a tough spot. That initial mid-fight where Celestial were able to sort of establish that control early on and largely keep Rosvet out from the midpoint entirely. I mean, think about all the momentum they got because of how well that first fight went by finding that payload conversion there as well. I mean, I don't know, man. I think that fight really hurt them.
I agree. I think they just completely mispositioned on it and set themselves up for the backlines on Celestial, Prosper, to do whatever he wanted. This is his, I think, triple to clean up after the mid, but the fact that they had this composition that was going to lose, completely going to lose the barn, and they played really close in the barn and didn't play on stage at all, I think I don't know if they understood how to play this composition on Ice Mines.
That's certainly what it felt like here, and they weren't going to get a chance to figure it out during the game, as that was well-timed too. I didn't even see that they timed the explosion perfectly on the back of the pull there as well. Just excellent stuff there from Celestial to be able to clean up that map. But I think that's another part of it. The aggression they were able to have, it did not give a lot of Rosvet to sort of diagnose on the go, if you know what I mean. Like during the game, it would have been very difficult to try and figure out exactly where things were going wrong.
Yeah, they needed to be more adaptable, I think. You were talking about diagnosing on the go, but this is looking at the Celestial comp. If you play this game enough, you know that you're doing that from the start. You look at that comp on Ice Mines, and you say, we're starting on stage. We're not starting inside barn. They had to know ahead of time if they wanted any chance, because you can't let that Grover get rolling. You need that Cauterize or to win early to really deal with it.
So you'll remember we started this one out on Serpent Beach. You talked about this a bit earlier, but this was where Toot Toot was solo tank on the Ruckus, and they lived and died by how well that dive worked. It was an excellent game from Prosper, I believe, on the Strix as well, if my memory is serving me correctly. I'm sure his highlights will show up soon. And that was really, I feel like, the big difference maker. Yes, the dive was strong, but Prosper just had a game for himself on Serpent Beach.
Yeah, they just got all forced into his sightlines, and I think Celestial played this hybrid backline dive comp perfectly in both maps that they did end up playing it. Tutu just playing a symphony on this Ruckus, moving around, using that aerial assault to a great ability when it's something that we haven't seen before the changes to him this season in a long time.
The fight where everyone was looking at Prosper, right?
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah.
Prosper hiding behind the box all the way in the back, and Tutu literally walks in for free. They left the door unlocked. Key was under the mat, but the mat wasn't even there, and he just takes that Hexafire for free.
Yeah, I'm watching this replay. I'm like, man, Ruckus really got in there for free. How'd that happen? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. They were all worried about the Strix. So after the Serpent Beach was wrapped up by Celestial and some great plays by the Strix, we moved on to Stone Keep. And this is where Rosvet's pacing really got us scratching our heads here, Kresnik. It felt like Rosvet kind of bunkered down over in Shirt's side and just kind of waited on the dive to happen. And then Prosper hitting some nice accursed arms throughout the map as well.
Yeah, this is one way to play against the comp that Celestial had, the way they wanted to do it, but you can see here they kind of take these skill potential matchups, right? You sit there because you want to force big team fights, but when you're against these flankers that can get in and get out safely, you can't play like that. You have to catch someone potentially with CC. Toot Toot negates the only CC with a Hexafire, and it forces them to Ice Mines with Celestial up 2-0.
And Ice Mines was the final map here for this one. Celestial came in, finally making some adjustments over to the double frontline composition, something they hadn't run a whole lot of. And I don't know if we've mentioned Klosar quite enough on this con, but he had an excellent performance, I felt like, on Ice Mines as well, finding those long-range ultimates, pulling in priority targets, almost always to fit, I think, on the Victor, but whomever it was, they made his life miserable exactly like this, and ended up being a win for Celeste.
Yeah, it was a great turn for them by playing the way that they did before. I think the style they had on Ice Mines is great, and if they can bring that to other maps and stay as flexible as they were in the past, they're looking great to continue being in second or even try to overtake D69.
That's right. Up until now, D69 have looked largely uncontested. That improved. I believe they played against Onslaught to find their win to improve to 8-0. Celestial improved to 6-2, and Rosvet dropped down to 3-5. So 5 randoms, that next closest one in the standings. But I think that 5 randoms and Rosvet both, if they're up against Celestial, still do have a chance. District 69 is a bit tougher. So let's go ahead and look at those matches that have already happened. As we covered, Celestial won those 3-0. It was all 3-0s here in Europe, a bit surprising. But they all went the way that I think that we would have expected. So it'll be Brazil. That's up next here, Kresnik. Fatal Ambition up against Carnage. Any kind of insight into how you think that this one might be going?
I think Fatal looked pretty good last week, and seeing them against Carnage, who have looked strong. I think this is a good way to see how Fatal exactly have improved with the new roster. They kind of have a Sanguine style, 2 console DPS and a PC DPS, tank flex as well. So we'll see really how they've taken to their new player and how they'll perform against these top teams that have looked almost a head above everybody else, I would say, in the Brazilian region.
That's tough. We've seen a lot of this kind of roster shakeup, I feel like, here lately, Kresnik. So I feel like the teams who were able to sort of respond to that quickly and improve on the fly, those are the teams that are going to come out on top. I appreciate you being my guide here through Europe, Kresnik. It's Brazil that's going to be up next, everybody. Stick around for more PPC.